Guys, what is the crack? I have a great guest with me today. I've got Johnny McCamley. John, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Dinny. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. We've been missing each other. You're a busy man. You're up to a lot, which I'm interested in hearing about. But I suppose first off, just for anyone who doesn't know you, give us a little introduction to yourself, who you are, and maybe your journey into the crypto space.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Dinny. So, hello, everybody. My name's Johnny McCamley. I first got into crypto actually back in 2015. It was actually my cousin Terry who got me into it. So he was actually buying it from 2013. He was actually a delivery driver for a kebab shop in Belfast called Spinks Kebabs. And he was actually buying a load of Bitcoin back then. And every Christmas Eve, we still do it. We meet at my granny's, swap Christmas presents amongst each other. And he was saying to all my aunties and uncles, I was 15 at the time, actually in 2013, when he first said it. He kept saying, just buy a little bit of Bitcoin, just buy a little bit of it. It'll be used on the deep web for transferring information, and this will be a form of payment. It'll go nuts. Nobody listened to him. So in 2015, it was about the 2nd or 3rd of December. I went down with my cousin Terry to an ATM machine, or not an ATM machine, sorry, a Bitcoin machine in Ann Street, right in the center of Belfast. When we're in Belfast, then I'll actually have to bring you to the exact place where I bought the Bitcoin. But yeah, I went there with him, put in some money. Wasn't much money at the time. I was still doing my levels at school. And I just really got hooked from there. I remember showing it to my friends on the way down in the bus from school and being like, this is money which is outside the system. I thought it was like just this really sort of cool sort of cyberpunk, if you like, which we referred to as today. But I really got hooked from there. I started buying Ethereum and then started venturing into altcoins. And obviously 2017 came, there was a big massive run up in crypto. I took some crypto out, about 12, 13 grand per Bitcoin, also sold some XRP then and held the rest of the alts. And then of course the disastrous 2018 happened at the time, where people's portfolios went from essentially zero to hero and then pretty close back to zero again. I remember that was a real freakish time in 2018. Everybody was waiting for this thing called CME futures. Institutions can now enter the market and buy crypto. So you put one and one together, it equals two. The price is going to go up. It was just shy of 20K and it just completely fell down. And that was, I remember not sleeping for 3 or 4 days after that, but I just thanked myself for taking profits earlier in the 2017 cycle. And then I just accumulated crypto, really dollar cost averaged into the market every week from 2018 to 2020. And then still continued it on. I still do it now actually every Thursday. But in 2020, I started a company called CryptoClear, which is a free educational platform for people to learn about crypto, whether it's investing, whether it's trading, or whether it's just somebody that has a general question on what Bitcoin is. Because I was just getting questions from, I'm sure you're the exact same, Dinny, aunties, uncles, friends, strangers you're chatting to, whoever it happens to be, they're always asking you, how do you get into crypto? What exactly is crypto? And kind of get scammed in crypto. So CryptoClear provides all them different answers. And really, the different stuff I'm be up to now is just grew arms and legs from CryptoClear originally started. So I also work with a crypto asset exchange out in Dubai called the Lightning Exchange, which is focusing on dirham as a form of fiat on-ramp and off-ramp for crypto. So it will do US dollars, euros, which we're familiar with, Denny, here in Ireland, and also pounds. But the primary focus is dirham.
Okay, you're up to a lot. We'll probably
Yeah.
dig into a little bit of that stuff now in a couple of minutes, Johnny. First off, I'd love to get your take on FTX because that's hot at the moment, and FTX is just the next step in the contagion that seems to have happened since Luna, I suppose, or maybe even since the money printer got turned off. But what is your take on FTX? And there's been over a million people who've lost money or potentially lost all their money in crypto. How did it come about? How do you feel about it? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, to call a spade, it is absolutely terrible what happened. As you said, that the millions of people that probably have their crypto on FTX and have lost all of their wealth sometimes in investments. Maybe they've put all the money they have into FTX. But I do think FTX in the broad scale of things, in relation to the industry we work in, the digital asset market industry, it's a very, very small bump in the road that people will, I wouldn't say they'll forget about it, but if we say to somebody today, Dinny, what was Mt. Gox? What was the scam Mt. Gox, or what was the scam one coin or whatever it happens to be, most people will look at you and go, I haven't a clue what that is, but they could be deep in crypto. It could be their full-time job now, or they could just be crypto natives. It doesn't matter, but they wouldn't actually know what it is. And so the way I look at FTX is it's terrible what happened. We all know that. But last November, the crypto asset market, or the digital asset market, I should say, was a $3.4 trillion. The total market capitalization, the total monetary value in the whole market, which, as you and I know, it's going to blow that out of the water in the next 5 or 10 years. But the damage FTX will do is maybe between 10 and 40 billion. And even if it does over the 40 billion threshold, and say there's more companies which are tied to Alameda Research or FTX, and say it does 100 billion damage, let's just say we'll double it and add a bit to it, and just a round number of 100 billion. Well, in the grand scheme of things, a $40 billion or $100 billion knock, if you like, or hit for an industry which was worth 3.4 trillion, give or take 12 months ago, and as you and I know, is going to go to the hundreds of trillions eventually. It's like a small bump in the road, but I think it also shows a lesson for investors as well. Again, it's very hard to look at these things as lessons instead of losses. But if I personally lost money in FTX and say I had all my money in FTX, well, I would be looking at this as a lesson and saying, well, I should have stored my crypto in, whether it's a ledger, which Ledger is a company with Ledger Nano X, Ledger Nano S, in which you store your private keys, or Trezors, or even a hot wallet / cold wallet, which is an atomic wallet. I think it's definitely a lesson for the market as a whole. But I do think, to call a spade again, it is absolutely crazy what has happened. It's terrible. I'm sure, just like me, you're watching the whole thing unfold with the interviews that he's doing, and BitBoy Cryptos, going to the Bahamas and tracking and tracing them.
Staking him out.
Yes, staking him out. It's like, what was that 2 years ago? Dog the Bounty Hunter. That's what it reminds me of. He's just like hunting them down. But it is absolutely crazy what happened with FTX. But I do think what will happen is, you and I will be sitting in maybe 4 or 5 years, whether it's the next bear cycle or the next bull cycle, or it's a consolidation phase, and there'll be something that happens. A big exchange will go down, a protocol will blow up, such as Luna did, and people will forget about it. Most people, if you and I stop them in the street and have some money in crypto or whatever, they'll not actually even know what Luna is, or they'll not grasp the extent of what happened. And the same as FTX, where everybody that I chat to now about crypto, it's like, oh, crypto's a disaster because FTX went down. And I would just explain to them that, look, FTX is a small bump in the road, and we have a very, very long runway.
Yeah. And as you say, it's nothing we haven't seen before. In the market cycles, there seems to be always something massive happens in every cycle. And perhaps this is the talking point of the 2020 to 2020 whatever 4 cycle, is that we had the Celsius, we had Luna, we had FTX, and God knows whatever else. Do you think, I suppose, so therefore short term it's hurting sentiment, but long term it really makes no difference to the adoption of this thing?
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. I think the technology is still, I actually know that the technology is still developing, it's still growing, it's still being matured, if you like. I think crypto is still incredibly early. People say to me all the time, do you think the ship is sailed? The horses ran the race? And my answer is definitely no. I think it's still incredibly early. So I think, as you say, sentiment right now is lower. But I actually read something earlier on today where it was saying that it's called, I've never heard of this term before actually, Bitcoin shrimps. It was a phrase that's used for people that own less than 1 Bitcoin. And it was saying that Bitcoin shrimps, are actually buying quite a lot of Bitcoin at the moment, where the whales are actually offloading quite a lot of their Bitcoin. So I think that the overall sentiment for crypto right now is negative, but it's like anything, when people are telling you not to buy, it's probably the best time to buy. And when people are telling you, it works the other way around as well.
Sure.
When people are calling the top of the markets.
In the mania, yeah, no, I'd agree with that. To me, I see everything that's happening now as like a huge opportunity, not for this year, not for next year, but for 2 or 3 years time. Like when I came into this space, it was in a bear market. It wasn't as deep a bear market as this, but the sentiment was poor and bad. And the decisions and what I built during that period of time didn't help me financially that year. But as time went on, it was like they were amazing decisions. And I remember it being difficult. The purchases were, and to go and exchange euros for something like it is today. I do the same as you. I dollar cost into Bitcoin every week, and like I fully am aware. It's not that I expect. Half of me does expect. It's like I'm given whatever amount of euros here today, and it's probably going to trade down and be worth less next week,
Yeah,
month, and even next year. But I'm just like, when you zoom out and you look at the long game, it's like, well, if you just use basic thinking, and you've done it there in talking about shrimps. People owning one Bitcoin is at an all-time high. People owning point one of a Bitcoin is at an all-time high, and people owning 0.01 of a Bitcoin is at an all-time high. And ultimately, this is a network, and the more it's adopted, the more people that are in the network, that adds value to the network. So it's not about whales controlling huge portions of Bitcoins. It's about whales dumping their coins because they can afford to, and allowing those coins to spread, and for more single individual entities to pick up portions of them or at coin. And it's an amazing opportunity for your average Joe. Like, I've got people in our Retire Early Club who never thought they could become a whole coiner. And now we're getting texts like, got that whole coin. Took me 2 years, but I got it. I never thought I'd get it because it was going away from me so much. So it is an opportunity in these times, although it's difficult and it's hard. But when we zoom out, and as you say, if this industry is going to be worth 100 trillion, or definitely more than 3.4 trillion, well, what a gift we're getting here to accumulate, and therefore thinking long term and zooming out, as opposed to, it is difficult to be buying assets that are just trading down in value. But it's like, we're either crazy, stupid, or we're geniuses. But isn't every genius considered a little bit of all them?
I would definitely say people on the outside would see us as crazy and almost stupid. But as you say, when the time comes where we reap the rewards for dollar cost averaging in, buying when there's blood in the streets, even when it's our own blood, is very, very important in any asset. People will then call us geniuses, call us lucky, all these phrases that get thrown around. But I think, as you say, the best thing people can do is dollar cost average into the market. And I always have the mentality, the hero or zero mentality, the go to zero mentality. So every penny I put into crypto, whether it's into, higher up coins such as, let's say, Avalanche, or else if it's a complete degen play, a complete degenerate play. I put into one last Tuesday. It was actually Wednesday morning, about 2:30 in the morning. It was called Dino LFG. The guy that actually called that coin called Shiba Inu when it had 9 zeros, and it went up by over 1,000,000%. So I just saw that and thought to myself, it's worth a punt, if you like. I would consider them play as punts because they're very, very, very high risk. Yeah. But really, the point I'm trying to make is, it's so important in crypto, whether you're buying any crypto asset or any NFT or any piece of land in the metaverse, that you just expect that it could go to zero.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. And it's true, like, they're investments. The risk is the reward. If there's no risk in purchasing something, well, then there can be no reward. That's just how financial markets work and have always worked. And the more risk, the more reward. Like that high risk play you bought, there's probably good opportunity in that, but there's also bigger opportunity that it's worthless. But as individuals, we manage our risk so that we can take those plays, and we haven't put all our money into it, so that if that high risk play doesn't work out, it's like, it doesn't really matter to me. It wasn't all my money. I want to talk to you a little bit about NFTs, because I know you've got 2 Bored Apes, so obviously you're into NFTs and you understand them. Can you explain them to a little, like, why did you buy them?
Yeah, so with the Bored Apes, I was actually watching the Bored Apes for probably, I would say, about 5 or 6 months before I actually bought them. And I was waiting for them to actually dip. They never did dip. They just kept going up and up and up. And there was 2 I was looking at. It was 1029, Bored Ape Yacht Club number 1029 and 3160. I really wanted them both. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to push in now because they're going to just go crazy. But I think I probably bought pretty close to the top, if not the top. But my plan with the Bored Apes was more for a marketing play and also an investment play. I would say the investment would be the number one. Ego Labs, who actually came out with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that company, I believe, is just over a year old, a year and a half, maybe right now. They're valued at $4 billion. So how I look at the apes, 10,000 Bored Apes, it's almost like 10,000 shares in Ego Labs. They also raised $500,000 for their metaverse, mostly actually from traditional VC companies. $500 million, actually, sorry, $500 million, which is a crazy number to even put in the perspective. But the main reason I bought the apes was, for investment purposes, just like we are with crypto, to make money. I do believe the apes will go at least 10x from where I originally purchased them from. But I also bought them for the benefits that you get with the apes. So, for example, there's exclusive Bored Ape Yacht Club parties that I can go to and network with high net worth individuals in the space, whether I just want to chat to them about my project or just generally chat to them. Yourself, your network it really is your net worth. So that's one of the reasons. Also for business as well, there's a lot of attraction around doing business with somebody that holds a Bored Ape or holds two. So, I've been out in, the Middle East and Asia this year multiple times. And a lot of people that I've met have just been so surprised and almost shocked that I own not just one, but two of these Bored Apes. So I think it's definitely one of the best things that I've done is acquire these apes from just an overall investment perspective to make money on them long term. I also got free land in the metaverse, the other side metaverse. I'll have to actually show you exactly where it is, but it's what I would refer to as swamp side instead of like beach side. It's like right overlooking the swamp. So nobody's made me a lucrative enough offer yet for it, but it'll be very interesting to see. I think when the other side kicks off their metaverse, as you and I know, if you throw $500 million at something, it's going to amount to something great. So I think once they do go live, a lot of big brands, a lot of money will start flowing into their metaverse. And then I think that's when the price of the apes, the mutant apes, and the land, and of course ApeCoin will just go through the roof.
What caused Bored Apes to be the one that everyone wanted, do you think? Because there's so many different NFTs. I get my Instagram with messages of them all the time. And but what causes some to be worthless? And how much do you pay for your ape, just for context for the viewers? Scared them.
Scare them a bit, but for both of the apes I paid $1,080,000. That was for both of them together. I bought them from two different people. I bought one on OpenSea, and the other one was, what was the marketplace called? I forget what the name of the marketplace was called, but a guy that I know that lives in Madrid who actually bought 6 Bored Apes for, you're talking, a couple of thousand way back in the day. He was able to find the guy, or he was able to get in contact with the guy that had the ape that I want, negotiate a deal, save me some money. And we just came together and done it in an escrow. So it meant that we didn't have to pay the crazy OpenSea fees at the time. But I think the Bored Apes, the reason really why I believe the Bored Apes caught on, I would compare it to the likes of, Conor McGregor with the green dial Rolex. Why all of a sudden did everybody want the green dial Rolex and it go through the roof and everybody's still chasing them? I believe they're still one of the hardest Rolexes to get. It's all to do with influence. It's all to do with power. So the way I look at the Bored Apes, it's almost like showing up to a meeting in a Rolls Royce and a Rolex. That's how I would look at the Bored Apes. Neymar, Justin Bieber, Madonna, Snoop Dogg, Eminem. Most people in crypto, or even most people outside crypto, that aren't even, you wouldn't think Neymar's involved in crypto, but he owns a Bored Ape, and Justin Bieber owns a Bored Ape. So I think it's the power and the influence of the community. And it goes back to even what you and I talked about at the convention at the Titanic Hotel on DeFi. It's all to do with the community. It's all to do with the network. And it's the same as the Bitcoin network, the same as the Bored Ape Yacht Club network. It's all about the people within the community that actually provides the value within the asset.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So you're like buying into an exclusive club. Like there's some names to be, that you can go partying with those guys. But have you any idea why specifically it was Bored Apes that took off? Like what did they do different that other NFT projects didn't? Or was it just luck? Or clearly it wasn't luck, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it was a lot to do actually with how little they've done or how little they projected on paper what they were going to do, and then how much they delivered. Because the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yugo Labs, they would be quite mysterious almost. They put like cryptic tweets out, and then they'd announce that ApeCoin's coming out, or they put a cryptic tweet out, and next thing they'll announce that they raised 500 million for the 497 million to build a metaverse. So I think it's almost the mysteriousness. It's almost what are they going to do next? We need to be part of this club. It might take off. It might go crazy even beyond what it's went to. I mean, I think the Bored Apes, it was $300 or $400 you could have picked the Bored Ape up for, and at the height they were about 380 grand a piece. So I'm sure there was some guys out there that picked up, 10 of them as an NFT punt, but it is crazy. And I think as well, it's a lot to do with really the scarcity of them as well, and how identifiable they are. I know Sony Records actually is doing a record label with them, I believe it is. There's a guy in America who has a fast food chain restaurant. There's people that are doing designer clothes with them, celebrities. It's just, I think it's the recognizable brand. It's almost like a Nike or an Adidas, where I think a lot of the other NFT projects are just latching on. They're focusing more on the money-making mechanism rather than the brand and community building mechanism, which you and I know, if you build the money mechanism first, it's great, you'll make some money, but then it'll slow down. But if you focus on the brand and the community, well, they'll always stick by you, and you can always release new products, new services, just like you labs are. You had the Bored Apes and the Mutant Apes and the Kennel Club, then ApeCoin, then the metaverse, merchandise in between all that. What are they going to do next? I don't know. Nobody else knows, but I'll certainly be buying into it.
Yeah, you're sold on it. And when it comes to NFTs, then we see like some of the biggest companies around the world, they all seem to be pushing into the NFT space. So it's, as you mentioned, there's the money side of NFTs, and that's where a lot of people who aren't crypto native or into it go. They think, I'm just going to buy this NFT because the Bored Ape is worth 300 grand, or was worth 300 grand, and I can get this for a tenner. But then you have the utility side is more so, I think, to where you want to focus on, and clearly all these big companies are investing heavily into the NFC, into, and you can see that the more utility they can build into their companies around this. For me, it's not something I focus on, or that I'd consider myself an expert on. I consider myself the opposite when it comes to NFTs. But are you seeing that, or what's your take on that, the way big companies seem to be embracing this? What can they get out of it?
I definitely think that NFTs now are almost how crypto was back in the day when it was just Bitcoin. So with just Bitcoin back in the day, and then you have Ethereum, which suddenly comes about with this thing called smart contracts that is going to transform the world as we know it. And then you've all the different altcoins in between. But in relation to NFTs, right now people look at it as profile pictures which sell for a fortune, and some of them do, sell for crazy money. There was a picture of an invisible rock, so it's just a white sheet, if you like, that went for like $500,000, which is just insanity, but each to their own. But I think with the big things with NFTs come in is the likes of, there was actually Chainlink put a post out the other day describing what was called dynamic NFTs. I'd never actually heard of dynamic NFTs, so I posted it on. After I read it, I thought this is incredible, so I posted it on all my socials for people to see. But what a dynamic NFT would be is it's something that changes over time. So let's say you're selling your Tesla to me, which you have today, Vinny, which you have today, and you want to sell to me, say, in 2027. So 2027 comes around, and instead of me needing to check, the history of the car and everything else, and go through paperwork and all this, hassle, if you like, well, I'd just be able to scan either a QR code or an identification number, and it would be in the blockchain and say when you got it serviced, if it was ever in an accident, any modifications you've made to it would change in this dynamic NFT. I think that's what's really going to change and transform the NFT world, when real world utility actually starts getting attached to NFTs. I believe there was a house sold the other day as well in Europe. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, actually on the blockchain as an NFT. It was completely legal. It was licensed. All the checks and balances that would traditionally be needed if you were to sell. If I was to want to buy your house, you would sell me it. So I think that's when the real value of NFTs come, when companies actually start applying real life value to the technology of non-fungible tokens in the blockchain, where right now it's pictures of apes and pictures of frogs and doodles that are selling for a fortune. But I would look at the Bored Apes almost like the Bitcoin of NFTs. And you have, there's another great one called World of Women, which is, I believe it's about $2.5 grand per NFT. I think they're going to go back to about 40 or 60 grand per NFT. You've Doodles, which raised 100 million. You've all these different ones. And I think they're almost like the Ethereums, the XRPs, the VeChains. And as you say, you'll have ones which I'm sure you and I get the same questions, I'm sure, where people are coming to you and saying, what do you think of this random coin? And they're looking to stick whatever amount it is into it, and they have in their head, sure, Bitcoin was at 69K, this is going to go to 69K, but they don't understand the intricacies of there's 21 million Bitcoin have to be produced, whatever else, where other coins are pre-mined and everything else. But yeah, that's what I think the best thing companies can do to utilize NFTs is actually bring the real world utility to the NFT technology in the blockchain.
Awesome. On to Bitcoin. I was going to ask you if you are a Bitcoiner, but of course you are. You're probably one of the first Bitcoiners in Ireland, or one of the very early ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you have any like world views on Bitcoin's going to shake up finance, or how do you see Bitcoin fitting in the next 10 years, or what do you see it doing for us?
The way I view Bitcoin, I used to actually view it as more of a payment tool, more of a payment tool. Like I always thought to myself that Bitcoin would be used for, everyday transactions, which I think it will have some use case for transactions in everyday life, but I don't think it'll be, the main asset that's used. But where I view Bitcoin right now, I view it like digital gold. I would view it as gold 2.0. So there's only 21 million Bitcoin that's ever going to exist. I think it's 2140. All of them will be mined and out in the open market. You and I will be long gone by then, unless there's some crazy metaverse thing they can do with us, but that's how I view Bitcoin. So I see it as gold 2.0, digital gold, and I think it's actually far superior than gold. So just as an example, they're actually talking about mining gold from asteroids in space. And the asteroid that we're looking at actually has 4 times the amount of gold that exists on the entire Earth. So let's say they bring that down, which we all know with the technology, they're going to be able to do eventually. There's now 4 times the amount of supply of gold that ever exists. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. That's why I think it's a better gold. I think gold as well, the last time I checked it, it was about 12 or 13 trillion in market capitalization. I also think it's going to Bitcoin will greatly surpass that market capitalization, and that'll put it at well over $1 million eventually. But I also think Bitcoin is a fantastic asset compared to gold as well. Say I wanted to send gold from China to, let's say, Ireland, let's say, you're going to have shipping fees, you're going to have storage costs, you're going to have probably months and months and months to get that shipped over. So it's hassle, it's stress, it's time, it's money, it's effort, it's all these things that people, the negativity of all them things, don't want to deal with. Where if you and I want to transfer $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, this digital gold, I'm sure we can stick it on a ledger, stick it in our top pocket, and fly from China to Ireland in less than a day, and just hand it to her, and hand it to a vault to keep it, or whatever it happens to be. So I think that's the real power of Bitcoin. I think it's a store of value, and I think it's also the scarcity. Obviously, 51% of the network, if they vote on Bitcoin for more Bitcoin to be made, or for a drastic change to happen, that can happen. But there's just too many players in the space now for somebody to come in and have 51% control. And there's also too much monetary value in it for one company to come in and buy 51% of it. So I don't think that would ever be a scenario that would play out.
Yeah. I think the thing we know about Bitcoin now is that it can't be changed.
Yeah. Too far on.
Yeah, too far on. Talk to us a little bit about your businesses then, because you're busy. You're in and out of the country and all over the place. You've got Crypto Clear. Maybe tell us a little bit in detail what you do there and how that works.
Yeah, so Crypto Clear is a free educational platform that we actually set up back in 2020. So whether people are interested in learning about crypto asset investing or crypto asset trading, with courses on our website. We also have a free Telegram group as well, which anybody can ask any questions, whether it's something like, what is crypto, what is Bitcoin, how to get started, or something as complex as, navigating a DeFi protocol. So that's really where we're at with Crypto Clear right now. It's pretty simple business. People just contact us if they want to get free crypto education. People can also contact me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Probably the best one to get me on is Instagram. And I reply to everybody, whether it's somebody asking me a a question, what is Bitcoin, or again, the DeFi protocol example. And then we also have a company called Lightning Exchange, which I'm the CEO of Lightning Exchange. And the goal of the Lightning Exchange is to become the biggest exchange in the Middle East by focusing on the fiat on-ramp and off-ramp in Dirham. And at the moment, we actually have about 150 to 200 developers. The 50 we have in between are part-time, and they work on building the exchange and really just marketing the exchange and getting it out there. So we're hoping to actually get that launched just before Christmas. And we actually have a target for 2 million users by next Christmas.
Wow, that's a heavy project, man. Fair play.
Yeah,
and that's
something going on in cryptos. There's always something going on.
Yeah, and that's not launched yet or started yet.
No, it's not launched or started yet at all.
Fair play, Johnny. Awesome. I know you're under pressure for time. Well, not too much pressure, but a bit of pressure. So one of my last questions would be, just for fun, it's 2030. What's the price of Bitcoin? You being a man who was fortunate enough to have Terry make you buy a bit of Bitcoin a few years ago. Maybe we should ask Terry as well. This man must know a thing or two. But 2030, you can give me a bullish and a bearish, but sort of where do you see Bitcoin being valued at?
Yeah, I would be very, very surprised if Bitcoin hadn't reached $1 million per Bitcoin.
Right. Okay. By 2030.
Yeah, I would say $1 million by 2030. I think in the next cycle, we're probably going to go anywhere between 100 and around 3 to 350. And then I think the next cycle after that will touch 1 million or get past 1 million. And then maybe the one after that will be the final one, which will really solidify Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin right now, if it goes to below, 3,000 or 4,000, we'll be really surprised. I remember it went to $4,000. It was referred to as Black Thursday in March of 2020 during the COVID collapse. Went to about $4,000 per Bitcoin. I'd be very surprised it went down there. So I think in 2030 it will have solidified itself well over 1 million, or it will at least be, almost a stone throw away.
Right. Interesting. Last, I'll just hand off. Where's the best place to find you? You mentioned Instagram, so is that just under your name?
Yeah, it's just under Johnny McCamley on Instagram. The same is on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Yeah, they're definitely the 3 best places to find me.
Deadly. Well, Johnny, it's been awesome to talk to you. Hopefully we'll chat again in the future and you can update us on the developments of everything you're working on, man. Thanks very much for today.
Perfect. Thanks very much, man, for having me on. It's always great to speak to you, and I'd love to be back on.